The easiest thing to do is have your ego triggered. That's the easiest thing.
Yeah, and ego's the death of man, though.
100%. No, that's the problem. And so I would say, like, if I look back at my history of confrontation, the times where I feel bad about how I performed, all of those would be, and they're pretty rare. But the big ones are times where my ego got tripped and I just got irritable and annoyed. And then you do something that in the moment feels good, but is actually counterproductive.
Yeah. How do you deal with those moments? And does it stick with you? Does it hurt you?
Oh my gosh, years later. Yeah. Years later, yeah. I mean, I look back and I'm like, God, I wish I could have that one back. Absolutely.
Is there one in particular that you wish you could go?
Yeah, 100%. That BBC interview with Andrew Neil. So there's a BBC interview with Andrew Neil that I did. How long is this ago now? It was like 7 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, 5. I don't know. It's been a while.
What was the context around the?
So it was when Right Side of History came out. So it's 2019, I believe. The context of that was that he invited me on to discuss a book that I wrote, and then he proceeded to ask me 0 questions about the book. For 20 minutes, he just sat and badgered me about tweets that I'd written 10 years before.
Oh, so it was a trap.
Yes, and I felt trapped, and I felt annoyed because I'd been trapped. And I kind of dealt with it for a while, and then eventually I was like, you know what, this is a waste of my time, and I took off the mic and I walked off. And that was a mistake. I shouldn't have. I should have just absorbed it. I should have just taken the hit and moved on with my life.
I learned that walking away is the worst thing you could do.
Particularly on the internet. Very, very bad. Yep.
Especially because they don't know the context or where you're coming from.
And also I made a move. There are a couple moves that I made in that interview where, again, I had no idea who he was. He's in Britain. I don't really care about British media. I'm American.
Double down years later.
No, I mean, America. So why do I care about British media?
I mean, it happens, obviously you're bound to, get stressed out, and people, because debating, I feel like sometimes when people don't get their way, they like to get personal, certainly, and they want to attack you personally.
And then you go personally back at them. That's a bad move. So what happened is that I made some sort of snide remark about how he was coming after me because I was famous and he wanted clicks, and it turns out that he's pretty well known over there, so that looked bad.
I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. So that was again, you get,
especially from their audience, because they're like, "Who the fuck are you?" Like,
exactly.
Yeah,
so that those kinds of mistakes are easy to make, and so you learn lessons from that. Like, for example, don't walk into unvetted interviews. Like, know exactly who you're talking to before you start talking to them, and if you don't know, then don't assume. Don't make assumptions about who the person is or what their political point of view is or anything like that. But the biggest one is just like, take a breath. Just take a breath. And so there are a lot of situations where before I go into what I think is a fraught situation, I'll say to myself, like, just take some deep breaths. An hour from now, it's going to be over one way or another. So you can either have handled yourself in a way that you're proud of, or you can handle yourself in a way that you're not proud of, and then you'll regret that for years to come. So you may as well.
It's very stressful, though, because not only are you representing what you're standing for, but like people are using you as a bridge. So if you misrepresent who they are, even your own people don't want to associate themselves. So then you're spit out of the mouth. You're no party.
One of the things that I say frequently to my wife and to people I'm close to is that what we talk for a living. And talking for a living means people think that most of the effort goes into the talking. And what I say very frequently is I would say 80% of the stress in my life comes from not saying things. Right? You want to say something and you're like, you know what? That's not smart.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a dumb thing to do. You know what? It feels good in the moment, but don't do it. Right? Self-control is extremely, extremely stressful and extremely energy intensive.
So you're saying to be a great speaker, you have to know when to not speak.
Yes.
Good, valid point. I'm going to take that in. I'm learning to be a good speaker that people could take seriously. I have to be slow to speak and quick to listen.